Okay, next up is Victoria Tran. You probably know her from the game Among Us, and she's going to introduce herself. And the stage is yours. Yeah, she's a bit sus. Thank you, thank you.
Wait. Oh. Is it a clicker? Is it this? Hello. Oh, I should have said hola. Shoot. Okay, well, I didn't translate that. Hi, I'm Victoria. Okay, we're here because we're talking about you, and you probably have a very cool game that you would like to talk about. So when you have this very cool game, you're probably thinking of two different ways you're going to, sell the game. Either you're going to go to a publisher, or you're going to self-publish. And usually when you're presented with these two options, you're going to go with the publisher, right? You're like, oh yeah, I love publishers so much. Just give me everything that you have. But what if that was not the best option? Or you can't get your game signed, and you kind of have to self-publish anyway. Sorry, that does happen. That's what this talk is about. Everything sucks and I have no time, self-publishing and marketing. And this is how you will feel like 90% of the time. This is actually accurate whether you're self-publishing or publishing. It's game development. You'll feel that way a lot. Okay, so a little introduction. My name is Victoria Tran. I'm the communications director at Innersloth. We make the game Among Us. I'm also, we don't really have titles, but I guess I'm the same thing at Outersloth, which is our indie game fund. I'll explain it more later. I'm also an organizer at Wholesome Games, business and marketing for GDC. And previously, I've worked on many other indie games like Venba, Unpacking, and Boyfriend Dungeon. All of this to say is that I just get a lot of insight into what goes on into the self-publishing side and all the kinds of struggles a lot of indie developers have when it comes to marketing. And let me tell you, there are a lot. And don't worry, we will go through all of that. Some little disclaimers. Trust no one when it comes to advice. People will give you a lot of advice, but no one knows your game and your situation better than you, including me. So take it with a grain of salt. I will talk about publishers and agencies, and I have many friends in publishing and marketing agencies. No hate to them. I just want to be very clear about what your expectations and options should be when it comes to self-publishing and all of the pain that comes with it, because there will be a lot of pain. And also 90% of my information is North American based. I'm Canadian. I don't know what all the European government grants are, so just think about that. All right. So the reality is, this is a stat from Jason De La Roca and his talk, You Must Self-Publish. Publishers sign about 0.16% of games on average for all of the submissions they get. So that's roughly 1 or 2 games for every 1,000 pitches, which means it's very unlikely that you're going to get your game signed with a publisher. And that's if you even want it signed. So what are people looking for when they are looking for a publisher, right? So you have all these different reasons. You got development funds. This is very difficult. I understand. Of course, you want that. You have business development, platform relationships, and marketing. This is also very hard. But I'm going to argue some of this might be something that you want to own long-term for your own studio. You have these: release management, localization, QA, marketing. Many of these services can be or are partially outsourced anyways by publishers. So keep that in mind. But today we will be talking about marketing, which is right at the bottom, and I'm sure it's very easy for everyone to see in the audience. But this is the focus. So why do people actually want one? I've talked to a lot of studios from Outersloth, a lot of indies in general. It's all kind of the same. You don't have time. You don't feel comfortable doing all of these things because they're very difficult. You hate marketing, which I have heard many times, and this is good for me because that means job security, but not great for you because you should, learn a little bit of it. Or you just don't know how to do it, and you're like, a publisher can handle that. But the biggest one is that, and this is a direct quote from one of our Outersloth studios, is that honestly, my biggest fear towards self-publishing was how inaccessible it seemed. as if there were all these secret steps towards game development that only a publisher would know what to do. And that's not true. And that is what my talk is going to try and decipher for you. All right, you're going to jump through so many hoops when it comes to marketing. It's all very difficult, but I swear to God, you can do it. Many other studios have done it themselves. Again, no hate to publishers. Very big hater disclaimer. I hate a lot of things, but no hate. OK, so I do want to dive into Outersloth data and the fears and troubles of self-publishing. So a little bit more information about Outersloth is that it's a game fund that we made after the success of Among Us, and it kind of is strictly about game funding and no other services like marketing or QA or localization, because we wanted to give people the chance to make their game, not to worry too much about funding, and learn a little bit more about self-publishing. And as you can see from one of our developers, they kind of hate it. They love it, but they hate it at the same time because now they have to learn everything on their own. This is very important. We sign 1.4% games on average of all the submissions we get. So it is slightly higher than other publishers, but that's because we offer no additional help. So even then, you can see there's a very low chance of your game getting signed. And this is not to discourage you. It's just to keep it realistic about, like, even if you're pitching to publishers, even if you're pitching to game funds, you still need to keep marketing in the back of your head in case you don't get signed, because clearly that might happen. So some insights from Outersloth pitches that I've seen. Everyone asks for marketing help, but no one gives me a marketing budget, which means you're not thinking about marketing, and that makes me sad, OK? Don't make me sad. When I ask people what their marketing plan is, especially when they're submitting to publishers, they're always focused on, please just handle that for me. And I'm going to tell you, like, you should always be thinking about marketing, because you don't want your publisher, your marketing agency, or yourself to not know what goes into a marketing plan, because then you can't judge it for yourself. You can't tell if they're doing the right sort of work for you. And that is very important, as you will soon see. Why do people avoid self-publishing? It's hard. It's distracting. It's overwhelming. You just want to make games. Again, you hate marketing. Why would you do this yourself? I understand. Please bear with me. Again, I swear it's important. Most of all, a lot of people are afraid if they do marketing themselves that the game will fail because they don't know how to do it. They don't have the expertise. If they do it wrong, then the game is going to blow up, and then they'll lose their job, and it's all downhill from there, and you start looking like this. It'll be OK. So why should you self-publish? One, rev share. This is super important, OK? Rev share and how you basically sign deals and make back your money is going to determine your long-term sustainability. You don't want to give that away so easily. So when you consider publishing, do consider self-publishing yourself. Two is you own the relationships. Hopefully, you want to make more than one game. As you make more than one game, you want to be able to talk to Xbox. You want to be able to talk to Nintendo without having to be like, I don't actually know who to talk to because you gave it away to that publisher. Again, it's so much easier that way, and they can negotiate deals for you. I understand. But again, long term, if you're thinking about your studio, it is very beneficial to own these relationships. You also know what to look for. If, again, second game, you're like, I do still hate marketing, then you can start giving it away to like a marketing agency. You can pitch it to a publisher, and you can tell if they're doing a good job for your game or not, because sometimes they don't. You also get a better understanding of your own project. This is very important when it comes to marketing. As you're making your game, as you're pitching it to the public, you want to be able to enhance it, change it up, iterate on it based off of the feedback that you get when you're presenting the game, when you're posting it on social media, and seeing what people are resonating with. You build up your own fan base and community rather than the publishers, and you set yourself up for future success. It's all the same, and it's all very based, as my Among Us character is. That wasn't a good joke. Anyways, budget. So this is an example of a budget from a studio that we signed. Usually, again, I don't see this part, this marketing budget. People don't usually give me that. This is something that you want to be thinking of. And I know we're going to start talking about marketing very soon, but I do want to talk a little bit about budgeting, just because when you're budgeting your game and your studio overall, this is how you can kind of think about the marketing portion of it. All right, you got your usual costs, programmers, artists, yeah. Sometimes people will think about QA, localization, and marketing. You should think about that. Additional costs that people don't think about, accountants and lawyers, which are very expensive. And you want to be able to layer that into your budget, whether you're pitching to a publisher or just figuring it out yourself. And then contingency costs are normal, so these are things that you don't know you should account for. But just be careful if you're pitching to a publisher or a game fund. Over 10% is dangerous if you account for 10% of your budget, because that just tells me that you don't know at all what you're doing. More than 10% means you're not quite accounting for everything. So when you're accounting for everything, it makes sense, because as you estimate your budget, I want to see as much real information as possible. In order to do this, you can Google salaries that are normal within your country. You can use your own market data for when it comes to that. And for marketing and other unknowns like localization, just reach out to an agency and ask them for a quote. Any good agency will give you a quote for what they can do for you and how much that will cost and how much time it would take, and you can kind of account for that. Again, very important to just think about that as you're doing your budget. What if you don't get funding? Because this is going to be a big thing. So I've talked to a lot of indies and a lot of studios who have done it themselves. They've done things like deferred salaries and stopped working with contractors just to slowly work on the game. They have multiple budgets and schedules set up, so you account for if you don't get funding, if you only get half funding, and if you get full funding, and you kind of work from there depending on what you have. And then another option, which I don't really recommend, but obviously people do it, is that the game is your side hustle. You work your full-time job, you work on the game on the side. Just be really realistic about this. This can burn you out very quickly. So don't recommend it, but the reality is some people do it. And so when you're talking about marketing, as we talk about all of the other things we're budgeting, you are probably going to put 10 to 50% of your production budget into your marketing. This can be money, but it can also be time. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But a lot of people will think like, okay, so I need even more money. It could be like if you spend 8 hours programming a day and you need to do marketing, you knock off 1 hour. You do 1 hour of marketing, capturing social media content, and then 7 hours programming, right? So it can all kind of work out depending on how much time you want to put into this. All right. Either way, marketing will take a minimum of 3 months full-time work from someone. It will be someone, and it doesn't matter if you have a publisher, because you will have to approve things, you'll have to go through things. This is why thinking about marketing, even if you have a publisher already, is really important. It's going to take a lot of work if you want it to be done right. And I have seen many indies like get trailers from different agencies or publishers and absolutely hate the trailer and have to redo it themselves. So just stay realistic about how much work goes into this. All right, so if you're self-publishing, what are your marketing options? You can hire an agency, or you can do it yourself. So we're going to talk first about marketing agencies. And you're like, great, I can just hire a marketing agency, it's super easy, then I don't have to think about it. And no, again, this is not the point of the talk. You can't just give it away to anyone, okay? This is not how you solve all your problems, and you still have to do work. The whole point of this talk is that it's a lot of work, and you will be sick of me saying this. From one of the indies that I've talked to, and I've, again, talked to many indies about marketing, is that they believed, when working with a marketing agency, that their media relations could kickstart our community and generate wish lists. This will circumvent our issue of having no social media presence. And no, that's also not how marketing agencies work. We got to be realistic about our expectations when it comes to this. These are all the things that they can do for you. Don't worry about remembering all of this. I'm just showing you all the things that they can do for you. And the part about this is that you don't want all of this. Maybe you do if you're a big game, but if you're an indie, like, do you need advertisements? Do you really need that? Think about that. Do you need a $10,000 influencer sponsorship? No. And that's not to say that they're not helpful, but that especially as an indie, you need to know your budget and think about it quite carefully because it gets expensive very fast, right? So when you're hiring a PR agency, you're not only hiring them for their time, you're hiring them for all of the work they do. If you want to do a sponsorship, you pay the sponsorship on top of the work that they do to get the influencers and to keep track of the influencers. And it's all really great work. But again, if you're not careful about your marketing budget and your time, it's going to build up. It's going to rack up, and you're going to get overwhelmed about it. And you're going to start feeling like this. Feel like that right now. Anyway, you got this. Don't worry. We're going to talk about how you can do all of this yourself, or at least start to budget for it. All right, deep breaths. We got it. OK, we're good. OK, thank you. No hate to marketing agencies. Again, I don't want to come off as a hater. Many friends in marketing agencies. I just talked to a friend in a marketing agency right before this talk, so it's kind of awkward, but it's OK. Don't worry about it. But honestly, again, all of this is to say that when you are able to do your own marketing, you are able to work with publishers, third-party platforms, marketing agencies, everyone much better when you're able to put in your own work and not just brush it off to the side. Because as much as you may want to, that will come to bite you a little bit later. So, clearly I'm biased, right? I want you to do it yourself. So we are going to talk about how you can actually do that. And it's going to be a lot, but bear with me. OK, so the Victoria model of marketing, very important. It's going to be a lot of information. So don't panic when you see the next slide. It's that no one cares about your game. OK, I know. Very dense information. But we need to work off of the fact that no one cares about your game as a premise for when we talk about your actual game, your actual marketing. So we're going to talk about making it digestible and making people feel things, because this is going to be the biggest push for getting your game in front of people and just getting a little emotional reaction. OK, quick cheat sheet over how this all works together. First one you're going to think about is your internal marketing. So this is all the stuff that you can control yourself. First is the game, right? So you want to know that your game should always know who it is appealing to and where it lies amongst others in the genre. OK, so don't worry about, I will always cite my resources down there, and don't worry about taking a photo of any of that. I will link a website at the end that has everything I talk about on the website. So just sit back, enjoy, snap a photo if you really want to. But something like this, where you can compare all the genres and how big they are and where they land in that genre, will give you kind of an idea of how difficult that game will be when you're trying to pitch it to others, right? So for example, if we're talking about a saturated genre, it's going to be hard to stand out. So this is Rune Fencer Ilya. This is one of the games we signed for Outersloth. And it is a Metroidvania. There are so many Metroidvanias out there. So one of the questions I asked them before we signed them was like, what's your plan to stand out against all of these other Metroidvanias? And before we would sign them, I needed a satisfactory answer to that. So you need to think about, OK, so if it's hard to stand out, what can I do? You also have a genre that's unpopular, or not. There's not a lot of games in it. So honestly, Among Us landed in this genre, the social deduction genre. It's hard to find an audience. So if there's not as much competition, there's also not as many players. What are you going to do to find them? How are you going to appeal to that audience? You also have a trending genre. Now, let me tell you, working on Outersloth is great, but anytime like a new game trend pops up, like Vampire Survivors, I'll get like 20 different submissions of a game that is like Vampire Survivors, but tweaked slightly. So when you're thinking about submitting a game like this or making a game like this, think about like, OK, in like 5 years, is this going to be an oversaturated genre? Am I going to be able to compete with all these other games? What makes my game special in relation to all these other games? Something to think about. And we will talk about this. So your game is your main marketing tool. I love marketing because that is my job, and it makes me money. And also, it's fun. But it isn't the reason a game is ever successful. A game is successful because the game design itself and everything that comes towards it is good. Marketing is more of a multiplier. So think of it as like, if your game by itself would have had 10 players, with marketing, maybe you could get 50 players. It doesn't make your game successful, it just helps you reach as many people who would be interested in it as possible. So just think about that. Think about if your game, because I see a lot of people being like, I just didn't market my game enough. And you look at the game and you're like, I think you needed to analyze exactly what made your game special and why people would want to play this game. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So for example, when we're talking about like your game just clicking with people and seeing what works, you can see it's something like this, right? These are both card games that we signed for Outersloth, but at a glance, I'm sure you can already tell which one you would rather play. This doesn't mean either game is better. It just means clearly like one maybe is more simple in its game design, but not necessarily, not as fun. And then one will require a little bit more strategy, a little bit more reading. It's a little bit darker. Which one do you like better? Think about that. And it doesn't need to just be the UI, right? It could also be something like this. If you have different aesthetics and different vibes, you can already kind of tell off the top of your head what interests you, and you need to start thinking about your game like that. In a sea of other games, of other genres, like how does your game stand out in that? There's a really great talk at GDC from Nick from Slime Rancher, and he says, can your game design fit inside of a GIF? This is a really great way to think about your game and how it appeals to other people. Obviously, this doesn't necessarily apply to all games, right? Some games are a little bit more narrative heavy, which is totally fine. But you need to just think about, if no one cares about my game, how am I talking to them in a way that might get them to care a little bit more? One way that we can do that is through the gamer motivation model. This is from Quantic Foundry. You might have already seen it. It's been around a lot. But the thing that people usually talk about is like to think about your game in terms of the ways people find motivation in playing their games. Don't pick everything. Don't pick like 5. That messes up your marketing. You want to pick 2 and focus on those and see if you can get that in front of the audience that cares about it, right? So like if someone loves visual novels, maybe they might look for community and they might look for discovery. And you want to be able to talk about it in a way that resonates with them. Again, this will all be on the website later. Don't worry too much about reading it all now. But yeah, this is a really great way to start thinking about your players and what they want. All right, so when we talk about your game, we're basically talking about, what I'm talking about is your unique selling points, or USPs, very marketing heavy term. But it's basically all it is what you do well and what your audience wants. Super simple. You have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for what you do well. Your strengths is maybe you have a game design team that are really strong with level design, and that's going to be a strength of yours. Maybe you have a lot of money. That's a strength. Maybe you have no money, and that's a weakness. So you need to think about how you can work around that. Opportunities are things like maybe your genre doesn't have a lot of games in it, but a threat could be that now you need to find a different audience. Again, just breaking it down into more easy ways of thinking about your game will really help you out. Next is what your core audience wants. You can do this by seeing what other games in your genre are doing. You can also do the motivations, their likes and dislikes, the aesthetics, right? So if you're making a wholesome game and you have like a lot of red and black, maybe that doesn't really translate into a wholesome vibe. And you want to think about that, because if you're kind of talking to the regular Steam person who's like browsing Steam, they are basing it off as aesthetics, oh my gosh, words, usually first. And then audio. Audio always matters when it comes to this. And then you get your unique selling points, which is why people will care about your game when no one cares about anything. Okay, so very important formula. Keep that in mind. What I don't want to see, especially when I see this in Outersloth, is something like this. Do you have the same money as Hearthstone? I don't think so. So don't put your game in comparison with Hearthstone. Are you Slay the Spire? No? Then don't compare yourself to Slay the Spire. So one of the things when we talk about competitor analysis is there's a difference between a benchmark and a competitor. A benchmark is someone who does really well in your genre. That is Slay the Spire. That is Marvel Snap, that's Balatro. And these are really important because you're like, okay, these are the things that are maybe top of the game, and this is what I want to aim towards. But I don't want to compete with them because then you'll always be competing with Balatro, and that can be very difficult. When we talk about competitors, you're talking about a game that has released within 3 years of yours as you're like thinking about it, and also hopefully has a similar budget or team size so that you can actually work within your means instead of trying to be Yu-Gi-Oh! You can try though. That'd be very interesting. Next is your store page. Shout out to One Button Bosses, who were at Guadalindie last year, I believe. Anyways, so a store page efficiently translates your game into unique selling points to players. And this is something that you control yourself, and this is something that is going to be very important. Why? It's because you want to make Steam work for you. Steam is all about the algorithm. You know this, you know wish lists are important. But another reason Steam is so important is because even if you don't have a platform relation with Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, if your game starts getting popular enough, they'll start to pay attention. And the easiest way to do that is through Steam because there's less barrier to entry when it comes to that. So your store page, again, I'm going through this super fast because there's a lot to go through. Don't worry. Resources at the end. You want your text to be good. It's all about facts and tone combined together to create the best description for your game. You want images. You want to test thumbnails, trailers, screenshots. If you go to Steamworks and you check your marketing page, you can see your click-through rate. For a click-through rate, you just want to compare, like, if you change your Steam capsule, if you change your images, if people are actually clicking through to your game. Check out the marketing page on Steam. I swear it's great. Then you have your backend, which is tags. Tags are very important for actually letting Steam know where your game is, letting people find you, yada, yada, yada. Next is a trailer. This is a distillation of your game in the most digestible format. We all know trailers. We've watched them. We know what they are. They're used by major platforms, outlets, and players to promote your game. So you do want to have a very solid one. A mistake that I see is like someone will make a trailer that's 1 minute and 30 seconds. That is too long. Cut it to 1 minute. Most showcases only want 1 minute, usually less than 1 minute. And also people have very short attention spans. Again, people don't care. Try to shorten it up so you can really dig into what makes your game exciting. Can your game design fit into a GIF? It all comes together. How? I'm stealing Derek Liu's work directly. If you don't know him, he makes a lot of trailers for indie games, including for Among Us. His most basic game trailer is tell, show, repeat. Okay? So you just establish it with game footage. You show a title card explaining exactly what you're doing. You show gameplay footage. You repeat it. You end with a montage of cool stuff. This is the most basic way to make a trailer. And sometimes, let me tell you, game trailers can cost a lot. If you go to someone and ask them to make a game trailer, it can cost around, depending on how experienced they are, it can cost you 10K. I don't know what that is in euros. Sorry. 10K to 50K. The more experience they get, the more that you need them to do, the more expensive it gets. So it might be worth doing it yourself, trying it yourself. Even if you don't end up using it, great experience for trying to get your marketing into a little 1-minute pitch. Next is social. This is consistent promotion of your game's content. I know a lot of people hate this one the most. Don't worry, it'll be okay. This is your most direct line to reaching an audience at a low cost. This is very important because a lot of people do use social media. So especially the younger they are, the less they're using Google and other things to find out more about your game. They're looking up your game on TikTok. They're looking at YouTube to see if people are playing it. They want to see content related to this game, and that will kind of build on your game itself, right? You can see it with mouthwashing, for example. Shout out to mouthwashing who are in the audience. It clearly is something that people care about when it comes to finding out more about your game. So you want to be able to stay on top of it and tell people that you're working on the game. You can keep in contact with them. You can build a community with it. How is very similar, honestly, to trailers. It's a lot of showing and telling. The most easy way I can put it, especially when it comes to TikTok, is to just show gameplay and talk about one of your unique selling points. And remember, we made a unique selling point beforehand, so you should know what they are. And it's kind of a example of this. It's a little hard to see from far away, but these are 3 different TikToks I made for the game Venba. Venba is a cooking puzzle game where you play as an Indian mom going through immigration in Canada. And that is basically the script. For each one of these TikToks, I said that exact same script, but just changed the video. And they all did very well. So you don't need to have something new every single time. All you really need is to know what makes your game exciting and attach it to some good visuals or some exciting gameplay, and that's like the most basic you can get with social, and you can repeat it. A lot of people think they can't repeat things on social. People forget things like every 10 seconds. They want to see your stuff. And then another important part of social is just to interact, watch things, see what happens, notice the trends, and respond to people. A lot of social media, especially as an indie studio, when you're building your community, is based on responding to people and seeing what they're talking about, kind of tweaking your marketing and your game based on what you see people saying, and it'll all come together. Next is community. This is my bread and butter. This is a continual engagement of current fans. I love it. And how you can do it, or why you can do it, sorry, is that you build up your long-term fan base. I keep talking about this, but you want to think about your sustainability and making more than one game, making more than 2 games. And the more fans that you have who are already like directly in contact with you makes your next game more successful, makes everything that you do a little bit more successful, makes you more attractive to publishers, makes you more attractive to third parties, because they're like, oh, there's already a little bit of a guaranteed success because this fan base loves your game. I have a book coming out. It's called Mastering Community Management. So if you want to learn more about community management, please do check out the book. But also, you don't have to. I have a website. A lot of it is free. I'm not going to actually gatekeep that information from you. But if we actually do want to talk about community and not just shill my book, the how is honestly a lot of time. This is consistently communicating with your players, funneling them into your own spaces like a Discord or a newsletter or your social media pages, and engage with their thoughts and suggestions. This is all like all of these topics are honestly talks on their own, so it's very hard to break them down into like the most simplistic parts of them. But just think about talking with people, engaging your players, and keeping up with them, because again, the less you talk to them, the more they'll start to forget about you, and that's not what you want. Next is external marketing. So this is, I know, this is very dense talk. You're almost there, I swear to God. This is everything outside of you. This is different. This is showcases. So these are events for games promotion. Wholesome Games, or Wholesome Direct, for example, is one of them. You might like Game Awards, honestly, is one of them. It's basically, it gets your game out of its own bubble. So there are a lot of different events that you could be a part of. The more indie-friendly ones, and obviously like Xbox and Nintendo are more based on if you actually have contacts there. But you can always look to different events to apply to. And there are many different events. If you Google like game events to like submit to, you will find them. And I highly recommend doing that. So why you want to do that is for promotion of your game outside your immediate circle. So as we do social media, as we do all of the things that we do, at the end of the day, what you want to hit is the bigger gamer population. Those are the people just casually browsing Steam, just looking at what the next showcase is saying. And this, again, is very important for you, because the more you get outside of your circle and you actually get an audience that you like, you can funnel them into your community and basically save them for later, for when you need to talk to them, for when you need to promote your game. So when it comes to showcases, I am someone who works on the showcase side as well, right? So as part of Wholesome Direct, I get to review a lot of games, which is super cool. These are like the tiers of coolness factor that a showcase tends to look for, or what is the best. So if you have a game reveal, that is very exciting to us. And it has to be a good game, all very subjective. But if you have a game reveal, that's great for us, because that's breaking news. That is what makes press write about the showcase. Next is a game launch or a game release date. Well, game launch and game reveal can, depending on how big your game is, like if people really already love your game, then this will also be maybe tier 1 instead of a game reveal. Kind of evens out. Then you have a game release date, game demo, and then everything else. So if you have like new exclusive gameplay footage that's not as exciting, but maybe you can submit it. But all showcases are not the same. You also want to be very careful about what showcases you're submitting to. So they will ideally have some sort of leverage or reputation for you to build off of, right? If it's an unknown showcase or like, that's not to, again, not a hater of showcases, but they should have some sort of leverage for you. Ideally, free participation, especially as an indie, you don't really want to pay $100,000 for like a 30-second slot. That is way too expensive for you. Have a Steam event page. The showcase should have something that is linked to a third party. These are the ones that do the best when it comes to wish lists, because sure, like 500 people can watch a showcase and that might be nice, but if they have a Steam event page that's on the front page of Steam, then a lot of people are clicking into that who haven't even watched the showcase, but are just like, oh, what's this? And that will generate way more wish lists for you. And optional is a co-stream with creators. It's nice. It's not really needed, but if you want it, if they got it, cool. Then you have physical events to showcase your game at, like Guadalindie, yay! These are nice because it's fun, and honestly, it's a great networking tool. One of the things I always say is that it's not, if you're looking for wish lists for your game, physical events aren't necessarily the best for it, just because limited number of people, it's a little bit harder to track the numbers when it comes to that, but do not underestimate great networking, because that can get you the connections into a showcase, that can get you press connections, that can get you influencer connections. It's still very much worth going to physical events. Don't underestimate how much work they can be. Usually, if you start small and local, that's a really good way to get started. And you really want a solid demo. A solid demo and a solid trailer that can show people what your game is at when they're like casually walking by, or like they're too shy to try your demo. It is a lot of work, so just keep that in mind as you're making your game. Next is press. You want to approach press outlets with your game's biggest marketing beats, because it's very important in the ways that it's SEO and very helpful for when you pitch to other third parties. Again, it all kind of works together. And it also can be used for future pitching. The more excited other people are about your game, the more you can get, again, rope more people in, whether it is through like a Google search or whether it is through future publishing. For press, this is very important. Timing matters, because press have so many emails that they need to get through. So I asked a friend who works for a very big games news outlet, like, what are the best times to email you about things? So for a review key, 2 to 3 weeks. That gives them enough time to play the game and actually write something. The more people from that outlet with a key, the better, because they can make more content. Next is a news beat. Depends on what you want to say. If it's just like a release, then you can do day of. If you want an interview, then 1 week beforehand is very nice. And if it's a busy time, so something like Steam Next Fest, where there are a lot of game demos out there, they say ideally at least 1 week before the event, and if you can, give them the demo beforehand, and so they can play the game before all the other games, and that kind of guarantees you a little bit more time and access to the press themselves. Don't worry about this. This will be on my website. I just wanted to give people, this is an example press release. You can steal it, obviously change the text. It's about Among Us. Change it, take it for yourself, send it out to press. Make it your own. We'll be in the resources later. Next is influencers, very similar to press. You want them to play your game's demo or launch. You want to tap into their network of followers and reach. The ways you can do that is to look at websites like Sullinome. That can be very helpful. You can also see your competitors, like what, if you're competing with Balatro, like what people have played Balatro, reach out to them, make it customized. When you think about engagement size, don't really look at the following. That doesn't matter as much anymore. You want to look at the CCV, or the concurrent viewership. So those are the amount of people watching at any one given moment. That will matter way more than like an inflated follower size. Game choice is very important. Like, do they only play Fortnite? If they only play Fortnite, do not give them your game. They are not going to stream your game to an audience of only Fortnite lovers. Check out their personality and influence. Obviously, you don't want to give your game to someone that you don't like, very important. The content type that they make, some do reviews, some do Let's Plays, some do live reactions. Just see, if it's a review type influencer, you tend to want to give them the key much earlier so they can make and edit a video about your game. Any early adopters that play your game, you want to be able to reward them. So take note of anyone who plays your game early and try to get in contact with them to be like, thanks for playing my game. And at launch, maybe you want to talk to them and be like, hey, I'll give it to you early just to try it out. These influencer relationships will help you quite a bit. And then you want to check out their social media presence. If they're getting canceled online, maybe don't give them a key. Or do. Again, everything with a grain of salt. If you want to give a canceled influencer your key, okay, I'm going to move on. Next is a press kit. So this is very basic, but honestly, I see a lot of people not keep it up to date, so please do. This is the easiest place for press to obtain official images and logos for your game. Try to do layered PSDs, they love that. It helps them make content for you, essentially. Ensure your game is presented in the best light, and it makes it really easy for people. You don't want people to Google your game and take an image from 5 years ago, and you're like, oh, that isn't what the game looks like anymore, but okay. And there are so many easy ways to do it, right? You got Dropbox, you got Google Drive, you got Do Press Kit, which is what a lot of people do. Do Press Kit looks like that. Honestly, I need to do that for Among Us, but I've been too lazy, so we just have a Dropbox. It's okay. Again, as long as the information is there, it doesn't matter how you present it. Just make sure it's easy to access and organized. Very important. All right. Miscellaneous. I know. It never ends. There's so much to marketing. You're so happy. Paid ads. Are you sure you want them? Again, can you tell how much I hate paid ads for indie studios? A lot of people will offer this. I think it can be, honestly, very useful for you if you know what you're doing. Paid ads are a whole different job. Okay? And they can be so expensive. You could throw $500 at it, but will it be worth your time and energy? Maybe not. There are other things in the marketing pool that we talked about beforehand that would be more useful to you to explore first. And then maybe you can hire a marketing agency to help you with paid ads if this is something that you like. Again, this is all based on budget. If you have the money, be free. I'm not going to stop you. Influencer packages. Very nice to have. Completely unnecessary. That's it. That's all I really have to say about it. Again, very cool. People will love it. Maybe they will talk about your game. But oh my God, it is so much work to get together unless you have an agency helping you out and then, money, expensive. Yeah, you've heard it all. Third-party platforms. I haven't talked about them that much because this talk is only 45 minutes, but you never want to stop pitching to them. Again, you'll have your Steam numbers, you'll hopefully have some press. You can always talk to them and keep them updated about your game, try to pitch them, see if they can get you a deal, get you into a showcase, port to their consoles. All very important, all very nice. I highly recommend it if you can do that. Network with other indies. This is always nice, and not in a way where it's like the indies can give you something, but you just never know what happens. Any advice that they can give you about their experiences will help you way more than a generic marketing talk where I'm just yelling at you about money, okay? They'll have actual experience, actual more up-to-date information about things that you can do. You can also always hire a consultant for help. Marketing agencies also do this. Maybe you don't have the budget for a full campaign, but you want someone to help you look at your store page. They can easily do that for maybe $1,000, maybe more. I don't actually know how much it takes for that anymore. But if you ever need someone to just quickly look over your things or quickly help you out or train someone on your team to do a little bit of the marketing work, this is definitely something that you can do and is at a much lower cost. A humble timeline example, because I said a lot and you're like, okay, how do I fit this all in? This is all a lot. And I'm going to show you a slide, and you're going to be like, OK, that's actually still a lot. But I swear to God, it will make sense. These are things that I would tell someone. If you only had an hour of your time, and you're trying to maintain your marketing presence, what can you do? the easiest way to think about this without getting overwhelmed is block out an hour, 2 hours, whatever amount of time you have, every single day dedicated to something. The first of the month, or second, I guess, in June, look at your analytics, see how everything is trending. Then you can look at showcases, see what showcases are coming up this month or in the next month, see what you need to start applying for, making a trailer for. Then, Wednesdays can be your cursed content creation days, and you hate yourself on Wednesdays, but you have to do it. Thursdays, you look at new PR to pitch to or update your PR list. Then the next week, you look at influencers that you update your list with, et cetera, et cetera. And then Friday can be the day you post on social and have a little bit of fun with that. And then, usually, I like to have a week where it's like free in the sense that maybe you decide, oh, I totally forgot about community. Community also there. But maybe, like, for example, you're like, content creation is going to take way more than an hour, like slot it in here. So now you have 2 hours for content creation. It's all very flexible when it comes to marketing, but the point is to actually actively think about where this might go. And this might change. So during launch, maybe instead you take way more time to do content creation and batch create so that on launch week, you're not like stressing, trying to make new content, and instead you're focusing more on community and social. All that to say, it's like it doesn't need to be as overwhelming as you think it is, so long as you can think about your time in a way that makes sense to you. You don't need to follow this the way that I did it. This is literally just an example of a way you can think about it. But do it in a way that makes sense. And maybe, you'll realize content creation for you, super easy. Takes like 30 minutes. So you can instead dedicate more time to updating your influencer list. Or maybe you're like, wow, social really sucks. And you only want to do it a little bit less. And you definitely can. It just, again, matters that you're doing it consistently and in a way that you can track it with your analytics later to see how well you're doing and improve the next time. You thought it was over. It's not. Now you have marketing post-launch. And this is one that many people do not think about. But we will not talk about it too much. I literally only have, I think 2 points for this. The main thing when you think about post-launch is sales. And this is very important for your marketing. Part of the reason Among Us became successful is actually because we got a daily deal with Steam 2 or 3 years? 2 years after launch. And that put us on the front page. It is basically making sure you're strategically discounting your game, thinking about when and where it can go on discounts, seeing if you want to be a part of bundles, custom events when it comes to Steam store pages. This can honestly provide you with a ton of visibility boosts. Again, this is how a lot of Among Us's downloads became a thing on Steam. It was the strategic discount. And obviously, it's a little different depending on your game, et cetera, et cetera. Not everything will become an Among Us lift. Thank God, that was very stressful. But it can be very helpful to your game and to your long-term community, because as more people get your game on sale as part of a bundle, they will hopefully funnel into your community for later. So the best sales, 2 things. A lack of discount competition. So there's not a lot of other games that are on sale, and high visibility. So somewhere in the Steam front page, somewhere near the top of your game event. And this is not really as much in your control, obviously. Like this has to be something like a daily deal is kind of based on what Steam decides. But if you can get them, jump on them. A daily, midweek, weekend deal, this is the best one because it lands in these 2. You have a lot of visibility, but like no other competition because you're the daily deal. There's only one. Niche sales, so something like, wasn't there like some Steam sale that was like dinosaurs versus robots? Very niche sale. That always needs featuring in order to kind of be worth it. Otherwise, it might not do as well in terms of putting your game on discount. And you don't want to discount your game too much, and then it loses a lot of its value. And a seasonal sale. You need featuring on that, or else it can cause your game to be buried because there is a lot of discount competition. A lot of games are putting their games on sale. Not to say that you can never do these things. It's just like keep your expectations aligned. And because Steam, in particular, doesn't let you do too many sales, I think, back to back at once, you just want to think about what game sales and what game showcases might be more worth your time. If you want to talk more about post-launch marketing, I have a book coming out. I talk about it much more in Mastering Community Management. You can pre-order it now. I realized I didn't say that the first time. I actually don't know where you can pre-order it in Spain. I believe Amazon Spain has it. You'll see. It's on my website, which you can find very soon. But the point is that this is Neverway. This is one of the games from Outersloth that we signed. And like Fairpoint, they pitched to me a publisher before, and they also, because they're my friends, they also had pitched the marketing agency, like several marketing agencies that they could have worked with. And I was like, I think you could do it yourself. I honestly, you can sign the marketing agencies, you can sign the publishers, but I genuinely think if you try to do it yourself, it can work out. And obviously, not every game is going to have successful numbers like this. This was after the III showcase for them. They got 100K wish list after 5 days. But one of the devs was like, this was a really good learning lesson that we can actually do a lot of marketing ourselves, because they were very afraid of it. They weren't sure. And in the end, it worked out. So this is kind of my push. Obviously, this entire talk was my push to you to just try out some of the marketing yourself. You will have to do it anyway, so this is less of a plea and more of an order, I guess, if I can do that, to just think about marketing in a way that will set you up for future success, your studio for future sustainability, and have fun with it. Because honestly, a lot of marketing is fun. There's a lot to enjoy about it, even if you hate it and you'd rather be programming. I think you can learn a lot from the players that you talk to, from the ways that you can market your game. And yeah, you got this. Very, very excited for you. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. All my resources can be here. Do we have time for questions? I don't know how long that was.
Yes, we have time for 1 or 2 questions.
Whoops.
Someone?
Hola. So, did you publish a book? Is that? No, just joking.
Yeah, I'm publishing a book.
No, I am subscribed to your newsletter, so I was aware of that. So.
Oh, thank you.
Just wanted to ask you. I am in the situation that I am a very, very small and very new studio. We are not really a studio; it's just my and my wife. And we are trying to put the game in front of people, and it's very difficult from our point of view. We have been working a lot of time on making it visible into social media, etc. So we don't know. I know there are analytics, but we are not sure of which are the good numbers for understanding if everything is working. So, can you tell more or less which will be the time frame we should be expecting for having some kind of attention about the game? I know it is difficult, but
yeah,
you have more experience than us.
It is a little difficult. When it comes to numbers and analytics, some people will say you need 10,000 wish lists before you launch on Steam, but that's also kind of contentious because it matters when you got those wish lists and how soon to launch that you actually get them. I would say for numbers itself, what helps is one, seeing what indies are doing. This is why I say networking with other indies can really help. Ask them for their numbers. Usually people are very open about that. But also when it comes to tracking, you want to track your social media, see if it's going up. If you are launching your Steam page, looking at the impressions, looking at the click-through rates. I can't give you specific numbers, unfortunately. But it is honestly, when it comes to indie games, it's less comparing directly to other competitors and just making sure that you are seeing a trend in growth for your own game, because that will more or less influence everything that happens. But yeah, I'm sorry I can't give a more concrete answer for numbers.
It's okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we don't have time for more questions.
I talk too slow, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk faster next time.
Maybe an applause. Yeah.